our roving microphone for the Oral History Project. I'm Ray Mofield, and we're broadcasting over WCBL courtesy of Shelby McCallum and producing oral history for the Marshall County Public Library, the Oral History Project at Murray State University, and the State Archives in Frankfort. Now today we're visiting in the home of Miss Opal Ussrey. Ms. Ussrey, you look young and vigorous, but would you tell me how old you are?
79.
79?
Yeah.
Were you born in Marshall County?
I was down here at Harvey.
Let's see. Now, somebody I interviewed told me that Harvey was named after her grandfather. I believe her name is Hoover.
Ivy.
Yeah.
Ivy.
Yeah,
she was Ivy before she married Hoover.
Yeah, and she came from Harvey, and she said it was the greatest place in this world. Do you think so?
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And you live now on near Oak Grove Cumberland Presbyterian Church. Is this just barely in Marshall County?
The line comes up here across my field.
Well, you've got something in Callaway.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's the way I was. I always lived just sort of skirting around the line, back and forth.
Yeah,
Tell us who your parents were.
Harvey Darnell, John Frank Darnell's boy, and Vic Darnell was my grandma. That's Pappy's side. And on Mother's side was John Threet and Susan.
Well, the Darnells came here, I guess, about as early as anybody.
Great-grandma Darnell come through Paducah when it was all in woods.
Yes, sir.
In the ox wagon.
Well, isn't that a wonderful story to get on?
She lived to be 101 or 2-year-old.
The best I can discover, one of the first people here was a preacher, a Baptist preacher from Princeton named Henry Clay Darnell. He was a primitive Baptist, and he started Soldier Creek Baptist Church.
Yeah, yeah.
And is buried in the cemetery.
Joe Darnell
Uh-huh.
was his boy, wasn't it?
Well,
Paul Darnell's uncle.
It might have been. You know more about that than I do. But I know my grandfather, of course, great-great-grandfather came here long about that same time with a man named Stewart.
Yeah.
And Bannister Wade, my great-great-great-grandfather's name was John Irvin.
Yeah.
There are a whole bunch of John Irvins.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a little Irvin cemetery between here and Wadesboro somewhere. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe you could.
Well, I'm not sure.
Some Irvins are buried in there. And then, of course, his great uncle was Hardin Irvin, who owned the place where Hardin was.
Yeah.
But we didn't come talk about that. We came talk about you. What kind of home did you live in when?
A 2-room house, and a boxed house, and it wasn't even stripped.
Well,
snow would blow in on our bed lots of nights when it would snow.
I've heard my grandmother tell those things. And of course, having lived in sharecroppers' houses all over this country, I've experienced it. Maybe not quite that same way. A 2-room boxed house. Didn't have a porch on it?
No porch. Didn't have no screen doors. Put a chair down in front in summertime, put a chair down in front of the door, afraid the dog would come in the house.
You know, we lived in a little different world back then, didn't we? I can recall going to wheat thrashings when I was so small.
I had one of them.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We played on the straw pile.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandfather Edwards had a steam wheat thrasher, Hal Edwards. And so we played on the straw pile. And I can recall the big dinner the women fixed. They worked like dogs, cooked on a wood stove. Oh, it was hot in August. And they, I can remember my great-grandmother standing there with a peach limb, waving away the flies while the men ate their dinner.
And then take the straw and put it in our straw bed, and that's what we had. We didn't have no mattress. We had straw beds and feather beds on top of them.
Now, you may find this hard to believe, but I graduated from Murray State College with a bachelor's degree sleeping on a straw bed. In the winter, you got a feather bed, which made it a little warmer. Sink down in those feathers. You've had feather beds, I know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's... What kind of light did you have in the house?
Oh, coal oil, or kerosene they call it now, but we call it coal oil.
Oh, yeah, that's the uptown word, kerosene. we called it coal oil, too.
Yeah.
When you lost the cap on the coal oil can spout, what'd you do?
Well, I don't reckon we ever lost it. I don't remember ever losing one.
I've seen a lot of people lose them, and they just stuck an Irish potato down over it. Did you ever see that?
Yeah. Well, we always stick corn cobs.
Yeah.
Where was our stoppers?
Okay. All right. What was other things you remember about life?
Well,
any diseases of any kind?
Oh, Lord, yeah. Everything come by, I got it. Flu and pneumonia and whooping cough
Uh-huh.
and
Chicken pox.
chicken pox. And Mammy'd make us go in the hen house and then she'd run them chickens over us, and that's what they done, cure up the chicken pox.
Yeah.
But the measles, like, they never broke out. We had to boil watermelon seed and drink that to make the measles break out on us.
Mhm.
And then, what was that, Ann?
Well, you had good home remedies for nearly everything. I suppose you had lots of colds, and of course they haven't done much for the common cold yet, but did you have any kind of homemade cough syrup?
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. I had the whooping cough, and I had to take black pepper and sugar, and black pepper and sugar and salt. That was our cough syrup.
Mhm.
And then every summer at April, we had to have sorghum molasses and sulfur and acidity around our neck.
Well, I have worn acidity. I don't think my mother much wanted me to, but all the other kids were doing it. She said it was just an old saying and it wouldn't help.
Yeah, yeah.
But after smelling the stuff, I kind of believe it kept disease away. It kept people away from you anyway. They didn't get close enough to give you anything, did they? So.
And then we made our own soap. Took the meat skins and the cracklings and mirror line, made our own soap. We didn't have toilet soap home, but for when we went somewhere, we used toilet soap.
Oh, Sunday.
Yeah.
We put on a big act then, didn't we? I've heard my dad talk about going and gathering catnip for me. What was that for?
Oh, well, I used that to make my babies sleep. They claimed that was good. Put sugar in it, boil it down.
Uh-huh.
I used to have it, but I don't.
Well, did you get terribly thick blood in the winter, and then in order to get through the summer, you had to thin your blood down? What did you do for that?
Well, Doctor,
Sassafras tea?
Yeah, I've drank a many gallons.
That's what my great-grandmother used to say. Said,
Yeah.
son, you got to drink some of this tea,
Yeah.
and your blood will be so thick you'll never live through the summer.
And then I fell and hurt this knee, and it swelled up, and Dr. Gus Covington looked like just a little paring knife and split it open, and never put nothing on it, and told Papa to get some peroxide
Mm-hmm.
and boil it out. That's all I ever done. I like to went into fits.
I'm sure it hurt, but you know that is a good disinfectant.
Dr. Uke was his boy, Dr. Gus. You ever know Dr. Gus Covington?
Oh, I knew both of them.
And then Dr. Hughes, then Dr. Caulfield.
As I told you a moment ago, Dad was a sharecropper, and we moved about once a year. We moved 12 times by the time I was 16, so that made nearly every year. And one year, the year I was 5, we lived in the heart of downtown Wadesboro. We shared a house with a fellow named Ruby Edwards, if you ever
I know
heard of
him. I knowed him.
And we lived on the west side of the house, and he and his wife lived on the east. And on the corner there in the heart of downtown Wadesboro, Dr. Gus Covington was still living. And his daughter Sarah, I believe, was with him. And his son, Dr. Euclid, had moved from Hardin to Murray by that time. but he practiced in Murray till his death in 1934.
And on down that road, this used to be the tobacco factory. That's where they'd take our tobacco off.
Mm-hmm. Do you, I was going to ask you how much you remembered about Wadesboro. What was there when you can first remember?
Well, Dr. Gus living there. And let's see.
Was there a little general store there when you can remember?
Well, I don't remember it.
Well, when we moved there was one little general store just across the street from Dr. Covington's. I believe it had a Shell gas pump. It was operated by Paul Holland, F.G. Holland's brother. And I guess he had chewing tobacco, I know, and salt and soda and sugar and what have you.
Well, that Holland was a school teacher
Uh-huh.
up here at Oak Grove with Euphema Ussrey. They taught school together.
Mhm.
And then Mr. Gus Lamb then taught the next year.
Gus Lamb, now I knew that fella. He was our mail carrier on Murray RFD 7. Out at that time between Murray and New Providence. So I remember Gus Lamb also.
And then he went teaching school.
I didn't know what ever happened to
Well,
him,
he died at Murray.
but I bought my first car from him. It was a 1927 Ford Model T in 37. It had wire wheels, and I thought it was worth at least $100 million. I gave 35 for it, so I
Yeah.
really got a bargain.
Yeah.
Drove that all the way through to high school. There were no buses back then.
No.
Well, I'll tell you, you've had some wonderful experiences. Any other, do you remember anything about Hardin in those days? Did you ever go there?
That's where I got my furniture, keeping house, and there's one of the safes I got from one of the merchants.
Oh, those safes. People like that. They bring money now, don't they,
Oh, I see.
at those sales?
Me and Harv been married 60 what? You see, Jay's, well, 60-some year me and Harv been married.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you
If
went,
you want to get your daughter over there in the chair by you to kind of help us out a little bit, that'll be fine.
well, whatever she wants to do.
62 years she's been married altogether.
Uh-huh.
And that safe is so nice.
Yeah,
It looks
we went up to Hardin Crest
Hardin Crest.
was the one where we got it.
Uh-huh.
And a little old box stove.
I remember two giant stores there. Now, one of the buildings is still sort of there today.
Yeah.
And when I knew it, it was Davenport Brothers, but
Yeah.
it had an earlier name,
Yeah,
I
like-
think.
Hardin Crest was there first, and then the Davenport boys
Uh-huh.
took over.
Now, the store that was back over on Main Street and faced the bank, they then called Ryan Miller Company,
Yeah.
but Ted Pace ran it.
Yeah.
I can just barely remember that, but, you know, I thought that was as great as New York City. They had elevators in them, pulled
Yeah.
up with a rope.
And then they had the big old ladders, and they had shoes all up here, and they'd pull them ladders down there and reach up and get them shoes.
That ladder rolled along. I'd have given $100 if I'd had it to get to push that ladder, but
I went to.
my mother
I
wouldn't let
wanted to
me
ride.
touch it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you, the sights in Hardin were great to a young man about 3-4 years old.
And we always bought our shoes from Hardin Crest, and it'd be Brogan shoes, looked like boys' shoes.
The train still ran, of course.
Yeah.
Horace Warren had a hotel on the corner.
Yeah.
I can remember Ray Trevathan had a restaurant along
Yeah,
there in those Horace Warren buildings, and there were 3 or 4 blacksmith shops. Doe Beater McDonald and
I know him too.
The Pace brothers.
Yeah.
Let's see, who were
Reddick Pace.
Reddick and Houston,
Houston.
and Les Jackson had a shop there then.
Yeah. Shoes, horses.
Yeah. Oh, those were the good old days. All right, tell us something about housekeeping then. How did you cook? Did you start out with a A fine electric cook stove?
Oh, no, wood stove. I had to have power cut stove wood, bust it up,
Yeah.
and that's what we cooked then.
And you sawed down those trees with a cross-cut
yeah,
saw.
yeah,
Took two people to operate that.
We sawed our wood and our stove wood and made posts, made a few shingles, but not many. Boards.
Do you go back long enough that you ever used a fireplace to cook in?
Oh, yeah, cooked on it, whole lot. Had me a long-handled skillet, made my biscuits and cooked my sweet potatoes.
Did you ever fry any whole cake?
Yes.
I love that stuff. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And if you were going out to work in the garden, my mother used to, she'd put on a kettle of, it might be green beans or they might have been dried beans depending on the time of year, I guess, and chunk up a little wood under there, and those old black cast iron kettles would get hot. You put a ham hock in with those beans and let them simmer about 5 hours. Now that's pretty good eating.
We always put big fat meat, and then Daddy'd make as high as 4 cans of lard, and it took that to do us from one year to the next time we killed again.
I have a lot of fun in my classes. I ask kids questions. Sometimes I give them pennies for the answers. And I asked a class the day before yesterday what a middling was, and there wasn't a soul in there that knew.
A side meat.
Yeah. You know what a middling
Yeah,
is.
we'd eat the shoulders, but we didn't ever get to eat hams. We always had to sell in, buy sugar and clothes and stuff.
Shoes. Yeah. Well, that is fine. Now, I had a girl in the office this week, and she was asking me about what to write an editorial on, and she thought she might write on the town of Mayfield. Said there was nothing, absolutely nothing, for the young people to do in the city of Mayfield. Nothing whatever. Well, I got to thinking about when I grew up, what did the young folks do around the house? What did your parents make you do?
We worked. We picked cotton. We'd raise cotton, and in the wintertime, we'd pick them seed out, and then I'd card the bats. Biggest part of Mamma'd help me. Card bats, and that's what we put in our quilts. Them bats, lay them.
My dad used to say to me, he said, now, young man, when I get home from the field, I don't ever want to see the stove wood box empty. Your mother better never bring in a piece of stove wood.
I've had that told me.
I don't want the chicken trough empty, he said. So I had to draw water.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the pond went dry, as it did in the drought of 1930.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Do you ever notice how much water a milk cow can drink?
Oh.
I'd fill up a number 3 wash tub full, you know. And that old cow'd stick her nose down in there, and it was dry instantly.
And our well was 70 feet deep.
Yeah.
And just near kill us to draw water to wash.
That's right. You didn't have electric pump
Wash,
in there.
and then we'd save that water in the spring and take sand and put it on our floors and then scrub our floors and rinse it off good. And that's what we washed our floors with. Didn't have soap and washing powders.
And what soap you did have, I guess you made lye soap, didn't you?
That was it. And we washed our hands and face or anything else that's dirty.
Yeah. One thing about it, it would clean.
I still make it.
You do?
Okay.
That's why there ought to be a feature in the paper about that. I read one a week or so ago about a man making sorghum molasses.
Well, we made a mini gallon there in our lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You could give some reporter a story on how to make lye soap, couldn't you? Show them just how it's done. Well, we'll work on that, see what we can do.
Yeah.
In the fall, of course, in the spring, you got out, and the first thing you did, I suppose, was to put out frost-proof cabbage in the garden.
Cut stalks. Get ready for tobacco patch.
Yeah. Then you
Clean out the stables.
had to put out early onions, English peas, we used to call them. And when the cabbage started coming in, boy, that was good eating. You'd make kraut, and when you got lots of it.
Yeah.
And of course, you picked blackberries.
Yeah.
I loved to work with Mother on a lot of those things, but the biggest thing I hated was chiggers. Did you ever get bothered by chiggers?
Not much. They never did bite on me. I don't know. I don't hardly ever get them.
Guy Irvin told me that one time, said he never had a chigger in his life.
Well, I don't know that.
But I'd go out and pick a berry, and I had 8,000 chiggers before I could turn around. I don't know why. They say they hurt light-skinned people worse, I guess, blue-eyed folks and so on. Then in the fall, you had to pick purple hull peas.
Crowder peas.
Crowders. Go gather hickory nuts and grapes.
Whippoorwill. We picked them on
whippoorwill
halves.
Peas, yeah.
They was good.
You'd have turnips, and you'd hill those things up to where they'd keep.
Well, we'd put our potatoes in one hill and turnips in the other. And then Pappy would go to Paducah and buy 50 pound of cabbage and hill them up, and he'd come home with a barrel of flour. Blue Goose, I believe, was the name of the flour.
Well,
we bought it in barrels.
good. What did you do for meat in the winter?
Meat. Oh, Papa killed 3 or 4 great big hogs. We really had meat. We'd eat meat 2 and 3 times a day. Bacon.
Hog killing was kind of a social occasion. You helped one another, didn't you?
Yeah.
And the first one killed, everybody would go home with a piece of liver or something or other to
And
eat.
cook dinner for them too. They'd eat dinner wherever they killed hogs. And that Papa's would be so big they couldn't hardly get them in them scalding barrels.
Yeah.
You always had a lot of good meat.
In much later time, they started using what they called a vat.
Yeah.
And they'd turn the hogs
We've
over
got one now. I reckon
with a
it's down
Ford
to-
tractor with a hydraulic lift on it or something.
Yeah, we've got one.
But people would bet on. I can remember going to Hardin, and the first question everybody asks is, "How many cans of lard did you make?" What did they use all that lard for?
Well, frying pies and making gravy and frying rabbits,
Yeah,
chickens. Well, it's just all gone.
sure. Did you ever make pies where you kind of turned them over a saucer, I think, and then take your fingers
Fried pies.
and press around that?
Minion.
Oh, I thought those were the best.
She's got
pies.
3 children that always want Mammy fried pies.
Uh-huh. They were good. They really were good. And I've since seen some that bakeries have made, but they were never quite in the league. I guess Mama's too great a competition for a mere commercial firm
Yeah.
to equal.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us remember our mothers with a great deal of admiration and so on. All right, hog killing, of course, provided many other things besides the lard, which was the shortening for the entire year. You got your makings for the soap there. Tell us a little bit about making that soap.
Well, you put, I believe it's 3 gallons of water to a can of mirror lye and 5 pounds of grease. And cook that till it got thick. And then I put Borks or washing powders now, but it didn't used to have that. And I just make it pretty and white.
Yeah.
I love to make soap.
Well, that brings back some very great and fond memories. Could you tell us something about your young school days?
Well, I didn't get to go to school much. I had the chills or my leg that had to be operated on and had to stay home and help put out tobacco and help take care of the children.
Were you born anywhere in this general area?
Over here close to Barnes Grocery.
Well, that's not far away.
That's
is
where I
it?
was born.
What school did you go to?
I
when
went
you
to
got
Darnell most.
Darnell?
And Ambrose Thompson was my teacher, and Effie Jones.
Fine.
And that's about all the school that I got to go. I had to stay at home.
Uh-huh. Well, we got 2 teachers' names on there and the name of Darnell School, so
Yeah.
that's good. That's very
And
good.
it's about 2 miles we had to walk, and that'd be 4 miles a day I had to walk to school and I was give out. And we'd come home last recess and suck her tobacco.
Yeah, we had to work back in those days. Then after you got up, I guess maybe 14, 15 years old, did you start thinking much about the boys?
Not much. Didn't care nothing about them. Didn't want one. No,
They
I was
are.
18 when I married. And I just went with my husband. 2 years.
And your husband's name was what?
Harl.
Harl.
Dick Ussrey's boy.
Yes. And did you start farming when you?
Yes, yeah.
Did
Right.
you ever run off to Detroit and make cars?
Yep, stayed there about 3 years. That's where we got our start. Paid for a place and bought us a car and come home.
A lot of people
And the
did.
Depression hit us. Had 7 acres of corn, and we made a wagon and a half of chutes and nubbins.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that was a terrible year. My dad came back from Chicago in 1930, and that was a dry year that would make this one look like nothing.
Yeah.
And the worst depression in all history hit. Now, we're in a recession now, of course, but nothing like it was then. I don't know how much you made in 33, but my dad made $14.
Well, I think we got about $40 that paid our interest we owed, and we was out of money then.
Dad didn't owe a thing. He didn't owe a penny, but he just made $14 in 33.
We bought this place from Reuben Rose and Pearl, and Mr. Frank Swift furnished the money.
Okay. Let's see. When you made soap, probably you were like my mother. You bought Mary War Lye, did you? You know, they tell me that way before that they even made the
Ash soap. My
the
granny
lye.
Threet, yeah. I've seen that go many times. In the spring, she'd pour that full of water and then keep that and make her soap out of it. But it wasn't thick like this other was. It was just kind of like jelly.
They kept all the wood ashes in what they called a hopper, didn't they? And then they poured water in that, and
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
fermented and ran through,
Uh-huh.
a sort of a soft lye came out of it.
Make soap and pick the wool off of the sheep and the geese. We pull feathers off the geese.
Yeah.
I always
Did that hurt them bad, or did
Well,
they scream a lot?
Oh, they just peck at you and you'd be sore. And I'd hold the head over this way. My granny Threet would pull the feathers off, and I'd hold them old geese's head.
And you mentioned cotton. Now, when you had wool, did you have your own sheep?
No, that was my granny Threet that had no sheep.
Uh-huh.
My daddy never had no sheep.
He didn't have sheep, but you've seen
But
it.
my husband did. We had sheep for 2 or 3 years.
And I guess she had a spinning wheel.
My granny did,
Mhm.
but mother didn't.
Now you've quilted quilts, haven't you?
Oh, I wished I had $1 for every one I quilted.
Well, I can recall that nearly every house in the neighborhood when I was growing up, they'd have 4 hooks in the ceiling, and when you came in, you knew that those were for the quilt frames to go on, and they'd let that down. The women would quilt during the day, and at night you could wind those up and get them out of the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of course, it didn't affect the. Someone asked one time, says, "Well, why didn't that block out the light?" I said, "Well, there wasn't any light up there."
No.
The kerosene lamps. For Christmas 1939, I was a junior in college, and I had saved a little bit of money working for 20 cents an hour at the job I'd gotten at Murray. And so I bought her an Aladdin lamp. I think I gave $5 for it.
That's what I give for mine. I had one.
And it gave a beautiful light, but
Yeah,
of course
that's-
it was just in one room. You had to move it around still, but as far as the light was concerned,
Yeah.
It was as bright as an electric. Well, that's a wonderful time to look back on, although I'm certainly happy that I didn't have to continue that all my lifetime. Well, let's get in just a few more things here. Time is rapidly flitting away for us, and we'd like to ask you some of the firsts in your life. Do you remember the first time you say you rode in a car?
Yes, Dr. U. Covington come see my mother, and the first car I ever seen, and then we asked him if we could ride. Oh, I don't know, a long ways. Victor Sefford's place.
Mm-hmm.
And we rode there and walked back just to get to ride in that car.
What about a train? Was that something you dreamed of, maybe?
A what?
A train.
Oh, yeah, I rode on that to Jersey Bottom to Hardin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lived down there a little while.
Did you ever fly in an airplane?
I want to.
Yeah, okay.
I want to.
Yeah, okay.
But I took 4 trips, senior citizens,
Mm-hmm.
different places.
You got on that bus and rode halfway around the world. They've taken some big ones here, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you go to
Yeah.
New Orleans, maybe?
New Orleans, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Washington, and Smokies, and California. I don't know where all I have been.
Well, I just think that's great that you can still enjoy yourself, and I wish the people could see your ready and quick smile and how happy you look.
Yeah.
Your husband, how many children did you
I
have?
had 2, and a little girl died at the age of 2 and 9 months with a spinal meningitis. They didn't have that new kind of medicine. I believe they had. She'd been 11 today, but
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Stark's done all he could.
Well, that's right. There was a time when it was almost 100% fatal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I know my daughter had that, and
Mhm.
even in 1959, I believe the year she had it,
Mm-hmm.
it was touch and go. But they did have new drugs, and she
Yeah.
finally came
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Is there anything special you'd like to get
Yeah,
on
Henry
here?
Gardner. The first year he come around was the year I was born, and he rode a horse, and my mother seen
Now,
him
Henry
every,
Gardner was the mail carrier.
and he went the first week I was born, and my mother didn't know who it was, and so he went on a horse for years, and then he finally got a buggy, and put a brick in the lantern, and went all the way around. But he didn't come down this road. He went by.
Mhm.
Yes, he did. He come here and then back by New Zion and went through there and then back to Hardin on that horse.
You know, that was interesting. Since you mentioned Mr. Henry Gardner,
Good man.
he was a fine fellow, and his wife is still in the nursing home here
Yeah.
in Marshall County. And, of course, he had a son named Cress, who is ill now,
Yeah.
and was a high school classmate of mine. And Wilma, who married Dwight Pace.
I know more.
They're all wonderful people. The interesting thing to me was that he had a brother, also a mail carrier, named Rudy Gardner.
Yeah. But Rudy's been dead a long time.
Yes, he has. And
Well, both of them, of course, Henry and Rudy.
his widow, though, is still living in Hardin.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, a while ago I thought of something, but I
Can't remember everything, can you? Well, it's been wonderful, Miss Opal. You've been one of the finest people to interview I've ever interviewed.
Well, I could write a book.
Yeah, well, we're going to start you on one just as soon as we can. This is Ray Mofield speaking. We hope you've enjoyed our report live from the home of Opal Ussrey out on the road just a little bit west, I'll say.
Mayfield.
Wadesboro Mayfield Road, just a little bit west of the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, Oak Grove. We return you now to our studios in Benton.